Sarah Chen stood in the pristine engine room of the Galactic Alliance flagship Celestial Harmony, trying not to roll her eyes at the holographic maintenance manual floating before her. The quantum drive's diagnostic panel blinked an angry red, indicating a critical failure that, according to official protocols, would require 3 days of careful calibration and a team of 12 certified technicians from at least 4 different species. She glanced at the chronometer. They had exactly 17 minutes before the diplomatic delegation from the Arcturus system arrived. Senior Engineer Chen chirped her Zilak, her Vesperian assistant, antennae twitching nervously. "I've submitted the emergency maintenance request forms in quintuplicate, as per Regulation 47.3b. The response time is estimated at—" "We don't have time for paperwork," Sarah interrupted, already pulling her toolkit from her belt. It was a battered leather thing that had scandalized the Galactic Alliance's engineering corps from the moment she'd first unveiled it. They'd called it primitive, unsafe, and distressingly analog. Sarah called it reliable. But the protocols clearly state, her Zilak's translucent wings began vibrating in distress. Sarah was already moving toward the quantum drive's access panel. "Look, her Zilak, sometimes you have to trust your instincts over your instrumentation. This old girl's got a harmonic misalignment. I can hear it. Hear it? But humans lack the sensory apparatus to detect quantum fluctuations." Sarah pressed her ear against the drive housing, rapping her knuckles against different sections. The metal rang with subtle variations in pitch that told her everything she needed to know. Don't need quantum sensors when you've got 20 years of experience listening to engines talk. She pulled out her multi-tool, another piece of equipment that horrified her alien colleagues with its barbaric simplicity, and began removing the access panel. Her Zilak's wings were now humming at a frequency that suggested imminent panic. "Senior Engineer, this is highly irregular. The quantum containment field requires delicate." The panel came free with a satisfying pop, revealing the drive's intricate crystalline matrix. Sarah immediately spotted the problem, a hairline fracture in one of the primary resonance crystals, barely visible to the naked eye but throwing off the entire system's harmony. "Ha! Called it." She reached for her toolkit again, producing a small device that made her Zilak's compound eyes widen in horror. "Is that adhesive tape?" "Captain Tape," Sarah corrected cheerfully. "Rated for extreme temperatures and radiation. Been using it to fix spacecraft since humans first left Earth. You cannot possibly intend to repair a quantum resonance crystal with tape." Sarah was already carefully applying the tape along the fracture line, her movements precise despite the apparent simplicity of her tool. "Watch me." The angry red warning lights flickered, then turned green. The subtle discord in the engine's hum smoothed out into perfect harmony. Sarah replaced the access panel and stepped back, dusting off her hands with satisfaction. Her Zilak stared at the diagnostic display in disbelief. "This is impossible. The efficiency rating it's higher than factory specifications. Sometimes a little imperfection in the matrix actually improves resonance," Sarah explained, returning her tools to their holders. "Like a well-worn engine that runs smoother than a new one. You just have to learn to listen to what the machine is telling you." The Vesperian's antennae drooped in confusion. "But the manuals, the protocols are good guidelines," Sarah finished, placing a gentle hand on her assistant's shoulder. "But they can't account for every situation. Sometimes you need to improvise." The ship's intercom chimed. "Diplomatic vessel approaching docking bay 1. All systems nominal." Her Zilak's wings finally settled into a less anxious flutter. Perhaps there is something to be said for your methods, Senior Engineer. Though I shudder to think what the engineering corps will say when they review the maintenance logs." Sarah grinned. "Then it's a good thing I taught you how to file those forms in a way that makes everyone happy, isn't it?" The next few weeks saw Sarah's reputation spread through the celestial harmony like a quantum cascade. Engineers from other departments began appearing at her workspace, asking quietly about her alternative maintenance techniques. Even some of the more junior alien technicians started showing interest, though they were careful to maintain plausible deniability in their official reports. It wasn't until the incident with the Rigelian ambassador's personal shuttle that things really came to a head. The vessel's artificial gravity had failed spectacularly during landing, leaving the distinguished diplomat floating upside down in the docking bay while a team of certified gravity technicians argued about proper diagnostic procedures. Sarah, passing by on her way to lunch, had taken one look at the situation, pulled a rubber mallet from her toolkit, and given the gravity generator's housing a precise tap in exactly the right spot. The field had snapped back into place instantly, depositing the ambassador safely, if not entirely dignified, back on the deck. The resulting investigation had nearly caused the engineering corps' central computer to have a nervous breakdown trying to categorize percussive maintenance within its rigid framework of approved techniques. But it was becoming increasingly difficult to argue with results. Change was coming to the Galactic Alliance's engineering protocols, whether they were ready for it or not. And Sarah Chen, with her battered toolkit and unorthodox methods, was just the beginning. The attack came without warning. One moment, the Celestial Harmony was cruising through the Denebola sector on a routine patrol. The next, space itself seemed to tear open as the Swarm Collective's bioships emerged from quantum space. Sarah was elbow-deep in a routine maintenance check when the first impact rocked the ship. The emergency klaxons began wailing as Captain Tlares' voice echoed through the intercom, "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. Engineering teams to emergency stations." Herzilak burst into the engine room, wings vibrating at panic frequency. "Senior engineer. The swarm is deploying their corrosive weapons. 3 direct hits to the starboard hull. The quantum-hardened plating it's being eaten away." Sarah was already moving. Status of the other engineering teams. Following standard emergency protocols. Evacuation of affected sections is underway. Containment fields are being established. Damage assessment forms are being. Another impact sent them both stumbling. The lights flickered ominously. "Forget the forms," Sarah snapped, grabbing her toolkit. "We need to get to the affected areas now. How many other engineers are available?" "The human maintenance crew from Beta Shift is still aboard. Everyone else is following evacuation protocols for biohazard containment." Sarah's lips curved into a grim smile. "Get them. All of them. And grab every roll of hull sealant tape we have in storage. But the protocols specifically prohibit entering contaminated sections without." "Herzilak," Sarah interrupted, already heading for the door, "those protocols were written by people who never faced the swarm. Sometimes you have to break the rules to save lives." The scene in the starboard corridor was chaos. The swarm's biological weapons were living acids, eating through even the most advanced alien alloys. Through the spreading holes, Sarah could see the bioships outside, their organic hulls pulsing with sickly green light. "Chen!" A voice called out. Mike Rodriguez, her fellow human engineer, was already there with 3 others from his team. They had sealed their maintenance suits, not the approved hazmat gear, but sturdy human-made equipment that had kept spacers alive since the early days of solar system exploration. "What's the situation, Mike?" "Hull breach in 3 sections. Acid still active. Environmental systems are failing, and the containment fields are losing power." He held up a canister. "But I brought the good stuff." Sarah grinned behind her faceplate. "Neutralizing foam? Better. New experimental batch from R&D back home. They call it Swarm Be Gone. Eats acid like candy. Let's do it." Sarah turned to her alien assistant, who was hovering anxiously nearby. "Herzilak, I need you to coordinate with bridge control. Keep them informed of our progress, but more importantly, keep the safety oversight teams off our backs." We're about to violate about 50 different regulations. The repair crew moved with practiced efficiency, their movements honed by countless emergency drills back on Earth. While the alien crew members watched in horror through safety barriers, the humans sprayed Rodriguez's foam directly onto the living acid, neutralizing it on contact. Then came the hull sealant tape, not the approved quantum-bonded repair materials, but tough, flexible patches that could hold atmosphere even under combat conditions. It's working. Herzlak reported, monitoring the hull integrity readings. But how? These materials aren't rated for. Another explosion rocked the ship. Captain Clares' voice crackled over the comm. Engineering, we've lost power to the main weapons array. The control circuits are completely corroded. Sarah exchanged looks with her team. Time to get creative. Rodriguez, you still got that jury-rigging kit you swear you don't have? He patted his toolkit. Never leave home without it. What followed would later be described in engineering reports as technically impossible, completely unauthorized, and terrifyingly effective. The human repair team literally rewired the weapons array in the middle of combat, bypassing corroded circuits with emergency cables that definitely weren't rated for the power loads they were carrying. This is insane, Herzlak muttered, watching as Sarah manually spliced power conduits while Rodriguez's team rigged a cooling system out of emergency water supplies and spare radiator panels. The safety tolerances alone. Sometimes, Sarah grunted as she connected the final circuit, you have to trust that the people who built this equipment built in more safety margin than the manual admits. Bridge. Try the weapons now. The ship's main cannons roared to life, tearing into the surprised swarm vessels. The bioships, apparently not expecting their prey to recover so quickly, began to retreat. As the all-clear signals finally sounded, Sarah found herself surrounded by wide-eyed alien crew members, all staring at the patchwork of unauthorized repairs that had somehow saved their ship. Senior Engineer, Herzlak said slowly, I believe we may need to revise certain sections of the engineering protocols. Sarah looked at the maze of emergency cables, the foam-covered hull patches, and the jury-rigged cooling system. Everything violated official specs, none of it would pass inspection, and all of it had worked perfectly. Maybe, she agreed, already dreading the paperwork, it's time for the Galactic Alliance to learn about the human concept of good enough for government work. The battle was over, but Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the best solutions didn't come from manuals, they came from necessity, ingenuity, and the human talent for making things work with whatever was at hand. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Alliance was in an uproar. Delegates from 100 species filled the vast amphitheater, their voices raised in what the official transcripts would politely call vigorous debate. At the center of the storm stood Sarah Chen, still wearing her oil-stained maintenance uniform, facing the Engineering Standards Committee. High Administrator Xylith, their crystalline form glittering with agitation, leveled all 7 eye stalks at her. Engineer Chen, do you understand the gravity of these innovations you have introduced to our fleet? Yes, sir, Sarah replied, keeping her voice steady. They saved lives. They violated 300 years of established safety protocols, thundered Representative Kvax of the Rigelian Engineering Corps. His electromagnetic aura was flickering with distress patterns. The quantum foam sealant alone was never designed for combat repairs, Sarah interrupted. Neither was any other approved method. We adapted. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Behind her, Sarah could sense Herzlak's nervous presence, along with Rodriguez and several other human engineers who had been called to testify. A holographic display activated, showing footage from the battle. The assembled delegates watched in mixed horror and fascination as human repair teams sealed hull breaches with specialized tape, bypassed damaged systems with improvised circuits, and generally ignored every standard procedure in the manual. But it's impossible, protested Chief Engineer Plax of the Centaurian fleet. Our simulations clearly show that these repair methods should have catastrophically failed. With all due respect, Sarah said, pulling something from her pocket, sometimes reality doesn't read the manual. She held up a simple wrench. Several delegates gasped. This tool has saved more lives than all your quantum-calibrated repair arrays combined. High Administrator Xylitha's crystals chimed in distress. You cannot seriously suggest we abandon centuries of carefully developed protocols for primitive implements. Not abandon, Sarah corrected. Adapt. Integrate. The swarm is evolving, developing new weapons our standard responses can't handle. We need to evolve too. The chamber erupted again, but a new voice cut through the chaos. Captain Tlar of the Celestial Harmony stepped forward, her normally pristine uniform still showing signs of battle damage. Honorable delegates, she began, her voice carrying the weight of command, I stand before you as someone who once shared your doubts about human engineering methods. But I have seen these primitive techniques save my ship and my crew when all our advanced technology failed. The captain activated another hologram, this one showing the ship's performance data. After the human repairs, our weapons systems operated at 98% efficiency, higher than manufacturer specifications. The hull patches they applied are still holding, despite being subjected to forces well beyond their theoretical limits. But the risks, Quacks protested weakly, are nothing compared to the risk of losing ships and crews because we're too rigid to adapt, Tlar countered. The swarm doesn't follow our rules. Perhaps it's time we learn to be more flexible. Sarah stepped forward again. We're not suggesting throwing away your protocols. Human engineering isn't about chaos, it's about understanding your tools so well that you know when and how to break the rules safely. It's about having multiple solutions to every problem, not just the officially approved one. Herzilak, who had been quietly analyzing data throughout the debate, suddenly spoke up. I have completed a statistical analysis of human repair incidents across the fleet. In every documented case, their unconventional methods have produced results equal to or superior to standard procedures, with a 47% reduction in repair time and a 73% increase in combat survivability. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. High Administrator Xylitha's crystals chimed thoughtfully. Perhaps, they said slowly, we have been somewhat inflexible in our approach. I have a proposal, Sarah said, seizing the moment. Let us establish a joint human-alien engineering training program. We'll teach you our methods, you teach us yours. Together, we might develop something better than either of us could create alone. The debate raged on for hours, but the outcome was already clear. The galaxy was changing, and the Galactic Alliance would have to change with it. As Sarah watched the delegates gradually come around to the idea, she couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best innovations came not from careful planning, but from the messy, improvisational nature of human problem-solving. You realize, Herzilak whispered to her, that developing a training program that satisfies both human intuition and Alliance protocols will be incredibly complicated. Sarah patted her toolkit. Don't worry. We'll figure it out as we go along. That's the human way. The future of galactic engineering would be interesting indeed. The swarm's return was devastating in its scale. Not a single attack this time, but a coordinated assault across 12 star systems. The Galactic Alliance's long-range sensors lit up with thousands of bioships emerging from quantum space, their organic hulls bristling with new, evolved weapons. Sarah Chen stood in the newly established Joint Engineering Command Center aboard the Celestial Harmony, watching the tactical displays with grim determination. Around her, human and alien engineers worked side by side at stations that reflected their merged technologies, quantum computers alongside analog gauges, biological interfaces next to manual controls. Multiple hull breaches reported in sectors 7 through 15, Herzilak announced, their wings humming at a focused frequency. New type of biomechanical corrosive agent. Standard containment fields are failing. Rodriguez, status on the experimental countermeasures. Sarah called out. Mike Rodriguez, now Chief of Emergency Response, consulted his hybrid diagnostic panel. The new nanofoam is working, but we're running low. The swarm adapted faster than we expected. Through the command center's windows, Sarah could see repair teams in action. Humans in their practical maintenance suits worked alongside Vesperians, Rigelians, and even crystalline Xylithians, each bringing their unique abilities to the fight. The sight would have been unthinkable just months ago. Senior Engineer Chen, Captain Tlares' voice came through the comm, "We're detecting unusual energy signatures from the swarm vessels. They're attempting something new." The warning came too late. A pulse of sickly green energy washed over the Alliance fleet. Sophisticated systems began failing across the board, but in ways no one had seen before. "They've evolved some kind of techno-organic virus," Herzilak reported, antennae twitching in alarm. It's rewriting our system's base code while simultaneously corroding the hardware." The traditional Alliance engineers fell back on their training, frantically consulting manuals and protocols that had no answers for this new threat. But Sarah saw something different, an opportunity. "Listen up," she commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. "This is what we've been training for. Time to put theory into practice. Mixed teams, deploy now." What followed was a symphony of improvisation that would have given the old Engineering Standards Committee collective heart attacks. Human intuition combined with alien precision in ways never before seen. A Rigelian engineer used their electromagnetic manipulation abilities to hold circuits together while a human tech rewired them by hand. Vesperian teams, their wings allowing them to reach difficult spots, applied precisely calibrated amounts of human-designed repair foam. Xylithian crystals, traditionally used only in quantum computers, were repurposed as emergency power conduits when Sarah realized they could channel energy more efficiently than standard circuits. "It's working," Rodriguez called out. "The hybrid repairs are adapting faster than the swarm's virus." Sarah watched as her trained teams moved through the ship with practiced efficiency. Every repair violated dozens of old protocols, but followed new ones developed through hard experience and cooperation. The sight of a Xylithian carefully applying duct tape while simultaneously performing quantum calculations would have been comical if it wasn't so effective. Engineering Command, Captain Tlares' voice was tight with controlled excitement, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. The swarm is falling back in sectors 3 and 4. But the battle was far from over. A massive bioship, easily twice the size of anything they'd seen before, emerged from quantum space directly ahead of their fleet. "Energy readings off the scale," Herzilak reported. "They've concentrated their virus delivery system into a single massive weapon." Sarah looked at her mixed crew of humans and aliens, saw the determination in eyes, compound eyes, crystals, and sensor arrays alike. "Then we'll just have to come up with something bigger." Herzilak, remember that crazy idea we discussed in the last training session? The Vesperian's wings fluttered in recognition. "The one that violates 17 different laws of physics. That even humans called impossible. That's the one." Sarah grinned. Time to show the swarm what happens when human creativity meets alien precision. "All teams, prepare for protocol impossible. This is going to get weird." The battle was about to enter its final phase, and the future of galactic engineering hung in the balance. But looking at her crew, Sarah knew one thing for certain: they would face it together, with every tool, technique, and crazy idea at their disposal. The swarm was about to learn that the most dangerous thing in the galaxy wasn't their biological weapons or their adaptive viruses. It was the combination of human ingenuity and alien technology, working in harmony to defend their shared stars. "Protocol Impossible is as crazy as its name suggests," Sarah announced to her combined engineering crew, standing before the massive holomap of the approaching swarm mothership. "We're going to turn their own biomechanical virus against them." Herzilak's wings vibrated with a mixture of anxiety and excitement. By using the quantum crystalline matrix as a reverse propagation medium, combined with human duct tape and a prayer, Rodriguez finished, grinning. Just like old times, Chen. The plan was audacious. They would convert the Celestial Harmony's entire engineering section into a giant countermeasure device, using a combination of Xylithian crystals, Vesperian bioelectric fields, and what Sarah liked to call human strategic recklessness. The quantum harmonics will need to be perfectly calibrated, a Xylithian engineer chimed, their crystalline form pulsing with calculations. Even a 0.001% deviation could blow us all to the next galaxy. Sarah nodded. That's why we're not going to calibrate them perfectly. We're going to deliberately introduce controlled chaos into the system. The alien engineers stared at her in shock while the humans in the room nodded in understanding. Sometimes, Sarah explained, you need a little disorder to fight disorder. The swarm adapts to perfection, predicts it, counters it. But chaos? Controlled human chaos? That's something their biological algorithms can't handle. Captain Clares's voice cut through their planning. Engineer Chen, the mothership is charging its main weapon. We have approximately 15 minutes. That's 10 more than we need, Sarah replied with a confidence she only partly felt. All teams to positions. Time to make the impossible possible. What followed was a symphony of cooperation that would have been unimaginable just months ago. Humans manually rewired quantum circuits while Vesperians used their natural bioelectric fields to stabilize the energy flow. Xylithian engineers channeled pure computational power through crystals held together with high-temperature aerospace tape. Rodriguez led a team that literally built a quantum field generator out of spare parts and alien technology that technically shouldn't have worked together. The mothership's weapon reached full charge. Green energy began to coalesce at its bow, a sight that had heralded the death of countless Alliance ships. Now, Sarah ordered. They activated their jury-rigged countermeasure. The ship shuddered as impossible energies coursed through its systems. Warning alerts screamed from every console as they pushed the hardware far beyond its designed limits. It's working. Herzilak announced, their wings blurring with excitement. The virus is being reversed. The quantum field it's doing something that shouldn't be possible, the Xylithian engineer finished, their crystalline form resonating with astonishment. The green energy beam from the mothership struck them head-on, and bounced back, amplified and transformed by their hybrid technology. The massive bioship's own weapon turned against it, its biological circuits overwhelmed by the chaotic quantum feedback. Direct hit. Rodriguez whooped. Their systems are going haywire. The mothership's organic hull began to pulse erratically. Smaller bioships connected to its network started to fail, their weapons and navigation systems corrupted by the same virus they had tried to use against the Alliance. All ships, press the advantage, Captain Tlar ordered. The Alliance fleet moved in, their weapons now enhanced by the same hybrid technology that had saved them. The battle was over in minutes. The swarm, for the first time in its history, retreated in total disarray, their perfectly ordered biological systems thrown into chaos by technology they couldn't adapt to because it defied their very understanding of what was possible. In the aftermath, as repair crews worked to restore the Celestial Harmony systems to some semblance of normal operation, Sarah found herself back in the Grand Council chamber. This time, however, the mood was very different. High Administrator Xylitha's crystals chimed with what could only be described as joy. Engineer Chen, the Alliance owes you and your teams a debt that cannot be measured. Your unconventional methods have saved not just ships, but entire worlds. Not my methods, Sarah corrected, gesturing to the diverse group of engineers standing with her. Our methods. Human improvisation would have been useless without alien precision. And alien technology would have failed without human adaptability. We won because we learned from each other. The High Administrator nodded. Which is why we are hereby establishing the Interspecies Engineering Corps, with you as its first director. The galaxy needs this new hybrid approach to technology and problem solving. Herzilak, now Sarah's official co-director, fluttered their wings excitedly. We've already begun documenting the new protocols. Though perhaps guidelines would be a better term. Guidelines, Sarah agreed with a smile, patting her trusty toolkit. With plenty of room for improvisation. As she looked out at the assembled delegates, Sarah Chen realized that they had created something far more important than new repair techniques. They had bridged the gap between human chaos and alien order, between intuition and precision, between what was possible and what was necessary. The galaxy would never be the same. And neither would they. In engineering bays across Alliance space, toolkits now contained both quantum scanners and duct tape. Repair manuals included sections on controlled improvisation, alongside precise technical specifications. And everywhere, humans and aliens worked side by side, learning from each other, adapting, growing. The swarm would return someday, of course. They always did. But next time, they would face an alliance that had learned to embrace both order and chaos, precision and improvisation, the best of all worlds combined into something entirely new. And somewhere in a repair bay, a human engineer was probably teaching an alien colleague the fine art of percussive maintenance, while carefully documenting the exact frequency and force required to make it work reliably. The future, like the best repairs, would be a perfect mix of planning and improvisation.